And welcome everyone to another episode of Sharing with Shellshock. I am your host, ShellshockPrime, and tonight we have yet another episode. We are going to be doing biggest gaming regrets, and this is the episode where we talk about the games that we regret buying, games we regret not buying, and so much more. We got 3 guests tonight, and we got 2 returning guests and 1 guest who's here for the first time. We're going to start off with Homecoming Hero. Hi.
Hello.
How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's good.
Pretty good.
All right. And we have it's good to have you back again for another episode, Homecoming. And
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And for the first time, RoxTheCat joins us. Hi, Rox.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. And you?
I'm doing good. It's good to have you on the show. And Shad, welcome back.
Yep. Glad to be back.
Yep. And just for context, Shad was the one that recommended me to do this topic. I feel like it's a good topic to have in regards to games we regret buying, not buying, and selling, and so much more. We're going to have a lot to talk about today. But first, before we get to that, Homecoming, remind everybody what type of content you do.
I do TikTok, I do YouTube, blog, podcast, sometimes stream. I am trying to get back into streaming, so this upcoming week I'm going to be trying to stream like once a week and do a little bit of everything.
That's good. And Rox, this is your first time, so tell everybody what type of content do you do?
I am the editor and content creator over at Galactic Rush, which is a channel that me and Homecoming, along with a few other people, run, and I occasionally stream. I also do art, but I rarely ever post it online.
All right, sounds good. And Shad, remind everybody what you do.
I'm a variety streamer on Twitch, though I do upload my content to YouTube sometime afterwards. I focus primarily on Nintendo games and sometimes Steam games. It's kind of all over the place. I do blind runs of games. I do randomizers. I do some ROM hacks. I do some like Pokemon Nuzlocke challenge runs, stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. That's good. All right. So now, like, we have a lot to talk about in regards to gaming regrets. We have a few things to go with, but first, let's go with the first part of the topic. What were some games you regret buying with your own money? We're going to start with you, Homecoming.
Well, I did actually, at the time of this episode, this may be a regret, may not be a regret. I don't know. I actually just bought a game today that might be in that category, and I bought B-Movie the game because it was $2. So why not?
Oh boy. That's funny.
Yeah, but and one game that I definitely can say that I regretted buying because I paid $20 for it. I thought that it being on sale for like $15, $20-ish would have made it worth it, but it was not. Actually, no, I'll tell you one I paid a full $60 for. Square Enix's Marvel's Avengers. I paid the full $60 for that. And
Same.
Regret every second of it.
Oof. Yeah, and didn't that game recently shut down, or is it going to shut down?
I haven't followed it in a while because I bought it, I played it, it didn't work, uninstalled it, reinstalled it, it still didn't work. That's how bad the glitches were at launch.
They were awful at launch.
It was so bad. So I don't know if it's currently shut down or shutting down. So Yeah, but the game I was gonna say, the $20 one that I still regret spending $20 on, was also another Square Enix game, which is Balan Wonderworld.
Oh boy.
I also regret paying money for that.
Yeah. Also for the record, I just looked it up. So the support ended on January 20th, and the game was still delisted on September 30th.
Interesting.
Oh no, never mind. March 31st was when support ended. They just announced that they were going to shut it down later this year. Which, yeah, damn.
Yeah, I got a little enjoyment out of that by playing it with one of my best friends a bunch. Though immediately after launch, the bugs were awful. It was so hard to play.
Yeah, and it's sad that both of those games were published by Square Enix. So like around this time, Square Enix was more quantity rather than quality. I'm like, because there were other games around the same time or afterwards that released. It came, it went, and did not really help Square Enix in the slightest. Granted, there were a few good games that came out afterwards, but yeah. Balan Wonderworld, I remember playing the demo. I was actually interestingly wanting to play the game, and then when I played the demo, I'm like, no. Yeah, and that was the end of that. Now I see it at bargain bins, if anything.
Yeah, I played the demo and still bought it because I was like, you know what? Maybe the game will get better. Maybe.
Yeah. It just didn't get better.
It did not. It really didn't. Neither of those games got better. And Shad, you said that you played the multiplayer for Avengers. My glitch made me unable to engage in multiplayer, so I had to do it by myself. My war table that let me do missions for multiplayer or reach out to friends or anything, that war table didn't work. I walk up to it and everyone's like, yeah, watch this, walk up, and they'd turn it on and I'd walk it up, no button prompt, no nothing.
What platform were you on?
I was on PS4.
Yeah, that was what I played on. Yeah, that's a pretty bad glitch.
Yeah.
That's a shame too, because from what I've heard, the game is best played in multiplayer.
The single player campaign has its moments of enjoyment, but it kind of ends on a cliffhanger because it's meant to segue into the multiplayer. Mm-hmm. And the multiplayer though is very grindy, so it's kind of fun with friends, but it's repetitive.
Right. Yeah. But were there any other games that you regret buying Homecoming?
I think another one that I regret buying from my past. So this is a long time ago because even though I want to say Mighty Number 9, I only paid $3 for it. So it's not... Mighty Number 9 didn't hurt me at all. But one that I will say definitely hurt me was... So my favorite genre of game, or I don't know if it's a genre or a category, I would say, is indie games. Probably category.
Yeah.
But, so I love indie games. I love how cheap they are. I love how plentiful they are. In some cases, like with indie games like Bug Fables, like it could be like, oh, a new Paper Mario game isn't coming out, so a team that loves that game made something inspired by it. Like, I love indie games to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that, there was an indie game that I bought out of pure curiosity without reading anything on it. And I paid a full $15 for it, and it was not good. And this game is called Ninja Pizza Girl. For those who don't know, a family during COVID made this game with Unity in their kitchen and you play as a pizza girl, but if you get hit, it affects your mood, which blurs and muddies the screen, which makes the graphics worse. So you have to do stuff to increase your mood, but the hit detection's off, and the graphics and story and music are bad, and yeah, what I thought could be like a little fun hidden gem ended up being really, really bad.
Wow.
And I played through the whole thing. I regret playing more than 15 minutes, and I thought it was going to be really fun, and by the end of the first level, I was already ready to put the controller down. So yes, big, that $15 could have got me a McNugget meal, 2 apple pies, and a High C orange from McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
And I regret not getting that instead. That's my new rating system. Should I have gotten this game or a meal from McDonald's?
Wow. The thing is, I actually did not even hear about this game, but I'm kind of curious to see how it actually looks, though. But wow.
I looked it up. This game looks jank.
Jank, you say? Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Ben in the chat says, so would you say that game was a recipe for disaster?
Yes, it was. Because it was made in a kitchen that was clearly on fire most of the time. It's so cute because at the end of the game you see in the credits, it's like, oh yeah, this was made by a family. And we made the game in our kitchen. And I was like, oh, it doesn't excuse that this game is really bad, though.
Yeah. Well, that definitely sounds like a game in general. Now I'm kind of curious just to check it out at some point. Like, maybe not to play it, but just to watch a video to see how it is. All right. That was an interesting one. All right. So, your turn, Rox. What were some games you regret buying with your own money?
First thing that immediately comes to mind is that one Universal Studio game on GameCube.
Oh my god, I know which one you're talking about too.
I bought that game because it had Woody Woodpecker on the cover, and I was immediately let down when he was relegated to just a mascot that's not even in the park.
Wow. I remember that game because, like, isn't it supposed to be some sort of tour? You have to go through all of Universal Studios?
Sort of. Each attraction is a mini game. It's essentially a glorified mini game collection.
Yeah.
And it's a really bad mini game collection that works only when it feels like.
Yeah. That sounds like a weird game, but I have seen it before though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, anything else comes to your mind?
So I'm thinking, and speaking of Woody Woodpecker, there was a PS2 game that was based off the Woody Woodpecker show that I also regret purchasing. And for whatever reason, they made him only speak in gibberish, and it's really obnoxious.
Oh boy.
The game also just doesn't control well, like, at all. This is a game that feels like a low-tier indie game before that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the embodiment of a shovelware game.
Damn, that sucks though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another game that I kind of regret buying, but I also kind of want to buy it again, is a Looney Tunes game on GameCube called Taz Wanted.
Ooh. I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's not a good game, but I still enjoy it for some reason.
I thought I was the only one in this world who played that. I rented that from Blockbuster.
No.
Yeah.
No, you know my pain then.
Yes, I do. I remember that the snow level in that game is garbage.
Oh, you got that far? I couldn't get that far. I had to stop at the construction site level. My tolerance reached a limit with that game.
Well, as Dragon says in the chat, I'm sure there's many reasons why he's wanted.
With that game, absolutely.
Yep. All right, Shad. What about you? What were some games you regret buying with your own money?
Okay, the first two I'm going to mention are the big ones that always pop into my head. And the first one, I know it's been done to death, but it was the first game that I legitimately realized, like, partway through, that I really wish I didn't buy this. And it was Paper Mario Sticker Star. I was a big fan of the original Paper Mario games. Super Paper Mario, I was a little disappointed they dropped a lot of RPG mechanics, but it had a great story and had some good gameplay. And so I just blindly day one got Sticker Star because it was another Paper Mario game, and why not? At the very least, it would have a good story, right?
Yeah. Well, about that.
Somewhere around the halfway point of the game, I realized I was not enjoying the game, and I had for a while just been pushing through just to get through it. I still did it because of sunken cost fallacy. I'm dumb. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, I regretted every minute of playing it. It was so boring. The battles were meaningless. The writing was bland. There was nothing good about it. The second one that's a very obvious standout for me is actually a Switch game, and that is the Mario Strikers Battle League.
Yeah.
I should have listened to the red flags when I played the demo, but I kept telling myself, no, I just need to, like, some games just don't demo well, which is true. I'm a Monster Hunter fan. Monster Hunter demos are really bad, and Monster Hunter, I love the games. So I just kind of tried to push through it. I already had it pre-ordered, and I was like, I'm not going to cancel the pre-order. This will be fun with friends. This will have our own battle league and stuff. The game was so devoid of like content, of like that had some personality in some of the animations, but that was about it. It was very shallow. I probably put in like maybe an hour or two of gameplay total since I bought it, and I just did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
I know your pain with that game. That game came out on my birthday.
I haven't played a Strikers game either. That was my first Strikers game, and I was just like, why? It sounds like the other ones were really good, and it was the worst Mario sports game I've ever played. Some lesser ones, Chibi Robo Ziplash. I got that on the 3DS. That's the only Chibi Robo game I ever got. It wasn't until years later I was informed that that's just a bad game and the other ones are better. But I got it because I heard good things about Chibi Robo. I was like, whatever, I'll get this one. And I never finished it. I got too bored. Starfy, which it's the only Starfy game we got in the West. So, like, I didn't pick the wrong game to enter. They just gave us the wrong game.
Yeah.
Total. That was really boring. I did finish it, but it was pretty boring. The Nintendo DS remake of Final Fantasy III was my first mainline Final Fantasy game, and I didn't finish it because I got really bored with it. And it made me afraid to play mainline Final Fantasy games, and I'm glad I got over that and tried other ones because a lot of them aren't really fun. There's an indie game called Tiny Metal, which is an Advance Wars style game. The graphics were really bland, the writing was really bland, and the gameplay itself was as generic as you could get. Get Wargroove. Wargroove is excellent.
Yeah.
Tiny Metal is really bland.
I'm really glad now because I almost bought Tiny Metal and I bought Wargroove instead.
You made the right choice. Tiny Metal, I did like 5 missions in Tiny Metal, and I was just like, this is so boring.
Yeah.
And I didn't think an Advance Wars style game could be boring. There's 2 games that I backed on Kickstarter also that I kind of wish I didn't back. One is a game that actually has gotten good reception. It just wasn't for me. It's called Nefarious.
Oh, I heard of it.
Yeah, I mainly didn't like it because once the game came out, it felt like an upscaled Flash game. It the graphics were a little rough, but I mean it was a stylistic choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't feel like a full game release that I wanted to spend money for. The other
one where you play the bad guy.
Yeah, he plays the bad guy. I love the premise.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I've also played that one.
Yeah.
The other Kickstarter one was Monster Crown, and I want to preface saying that the game is good. There's nothing wrong with the game. The issue was when the developer released it, he had some sort of issue with Nintendo. Well, with I think multiple companies, but mine was through Nintendo. Because I had a Switch version. He had multiple issues and could not get the codes that we were supposed to get as backers, and he didn't know how to handle it. He's never developed a game before, and kind of went radio silence for a while, which really upset a lot of people. And we were like, we paid for this game. Where are our copies? Everybody else that didn't back it can play it now.
Yeah.
And it took him like a month and a half. He apologized a lot. He got it out. He gave free content to try to make it up. But the damage is done, and I kind of wish that I just didn't back it and just got it at release instead, because I would have played it at release.
Yeah.
And the delay ended up making me I never actually got that far because I got distracted with other games by then.
Yeah, that's fair.
Then there's two last games I want to mention. Both of them are great games. They just weren't for me. Disgaea 5.
Okay.
On the Switch. I got it after trying the demo. I thought I liked it. I got a little further, and there just was so many stuff to do. I kind of got overwhelmed, and I tried like 3 different times to play through, and each time around a certain point of the game, I just get overwhelmed. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But the game itself is great. It's just not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the final game is Atelier Liddy and Suel. I have a friend who's really into the Atelier games.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good game. It didn't click well for me. The plot was very slice of life, which I thought I'd enjoy, but I kind of felt there wasn't much motivation for me. And I also found out it wasn't the best one to enter on, and some of the mechanics were kind of convoluted.
Wow.
And that's the games I wanted to mention that I regret.
All right. So, yeah, so you guys had some really interesting games that you guys brought up that you regret picking up, and quite a few of them I would actually agree with, because I've regretted buying some of those games too. Like, for example, Mario Strikers Battle League is definitely one of them, but it's not the big one that I regret for me. It's a game that I regretted buying, especially at $60, for a game that I played for maybe like more than like 4 hours, and even then not that much more. But now here are some games that I can tell you that I have regretted buying with my own money. I'm not going to count any game that was gifted to me or whatever, or games I've won or whatever, but there was a Super Nintendo Simpsons, like, don't get me wrong, there are Simpsons games that are not good on like Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, but there was one in particular that bored the hell out of me on Super Nintendo, and that's Krusty's Super Fun House. It's basically a platformer where you're Krusty the Clown, you have to get rid of all the vermin and save the fun house, and the Simpsons help you. The game's boring. The level design is absolutely rudimentary, and the gameplay just feels so bland and basic. It's probably the least bad out of the Simpsons games on Super Nintendo, but it's boring. Which
is that the one that you had to get the mice to the goal?
Yeah, that one.
Well, I rented that. I didn't hate it, but I only rented it. I didn't play it much.
I'll be honest, I played it through emulation, and that from what I remember, that game is not entirely clear with what you have to do. You kind of just, I don't know. It's been a while since I played it, but I just remember stopping on the first level because I wasn't entirely sure what I was supposed to do.
I actually regretted buying it like 5 minutes into the game. Another one that I could bring up ended up like so. My uncle gave me an N64 but I had to buy a game with my own money since he didn't have any games. And you'll never guess as to what my first N64 game is. You'll never guess.
What?
Mario 64?
It's not.
I'm expecting something odd because you'll never guess.
It's a well-known game, but you wouldn't think that it would be my first game. And that game is Superman 64.
Oh,
starting from the bottom, huh?
We started from the bottom.
At least it's gonna only get better.
Started from the bottom. Yeah, not the best impression. Although I did try out Mario 64 like many years like before that, but I got the N64 months before the GameCube came out because my uncle had a 64 in his house. And like he didn't want it, so we just took it. We made better decisions after that, but not a good start. Not a good start. Next game was let's see. So this was a fighting game that Capcom did back in 2004, and this is probably one of the most laziest efforts I've ever seen, especially coming from them. And they actually were put off on fighting games for 5 years after this. And this game is Capcom Fighting Evolution for PS2, where they put characters from different fighting games into one, and the game is completely unbalanced. It's probably the blandest out of all the games they produced. And because granted, it was at a budgeted price of $30, but it still wasn't worth it when they've released better games prior to that. And aside from ports, we had to wait until like early 2009 for Street Fighter 4 to come out on PS3 360, and then that's when they started making more fighting games again. But that game was a disappointment. Holy shit, I regretted that like day one, and then the game just randomly stopped working afterwards. I couldn't take it back. Like GameStop was like, nope, sorry. But what were some other games that I regret buying with my own money? I honestly do have a few regrets on the Nintendo Switch, but like besides Battle League, I'm probably gonna have to say fuck. Well, there was a game that I know I have on Switch that I regret buying. I'm actually gonna have to load up my Switch. Oh. Shad, you might know this one. Through in the Night Sky, because you wanted me to.
I know that one. I requested you play that, and I felt so bad watching you. I donated back the price.
Oh no, Street Fighter 4 is not a disappointment. It was another game, Capcom Fighting Evolution. Just want to let you know that in chat DM. But yeah, so let's see.
I was wondering if you're going to mention that one.
But yeah, Through in the Night Sky is just one of the most boring games because I was trying to play like hard games and bad games, and the twist was I ended up playing a boring game.
I mean, I want that known that the request was bad games, and so I didn't intentionally try to set you up like with the impression that it was a good game.
Yeah,
I hope you do that again at some point. Like, this game has to be on sale, like, for the price I bought it at, so you won't feel like... So it won't be, like, too bad.
Yeah.
But I hope that if you ever do that again, I'm going to recommend a game that I own on Switch that I paid $2 literal for, and that's the Popeye game that came out in 2021.
Oh no, not that one. I've heard of it too.
Where you just punch Bluto and he flies off into the distance like 900 feet, and then he casually walks back up on shore like 2 minutes later.
You know what? That's accurate. That's accurate for the show. So fair enough.
Yeah. Probably Resident Evil 0, because when I played it, I was expecting it to be a decent game, but I was disappointed. Like, it's probably like the most. I think the plot is just completely like dull, and I couldn't really connect with any character aside from Rebecca Chambers. But that being said, the game was originally an N64 game because they wanted to have an N64 Resident Evil, even though they ported Resident Evil 2 to the system. But they ended up moving it to the GameCube, because GameCube ended up getting Resident Evil 1 Remake, which is a really good remake. They got 0, and then they got 4. But it's so funny how 0 is just not good. Like, people talk about Resident Evil 6. As bad as that game is, it has its moments. Resident Evil 0 was just boring. And if I had to come up with any other games that I regret getting, Mario Party Island Tour for the 3DS. So, you know how we had Mario Party 9, and that one had mixed opinions, and Mario Party 10, yeah, I personally think that Mario Party 10 is the worst game in the series. Well, on console. That's the keyword, on console. But if you want to add handheld games to the mix, Island Tour is just a big bucket of nothing. Like, there's just no substance, no style. The mini games weren't really all that fun. The boards were super bland. It just felt like they just put something together just to have something on the 3DS. And it's one of the very few first-party Nintendo games I've traded in.
There's also
just didn't like
it. There's also one aspect of that game that the cover art kind of lies to you about.
What's that?
It makes you assume that Rosalina is a playable character, but she only appears in the background of one stage, and that's it.
All the more reason to just not even play that game, because it came out on the same day as Super Mario 3D World for Wii U and Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds for 3DS, because Nintendo released those 3 games. They just threw Island Tour in there. I'm like, I didn't even plan on getting it, but because of all the hype that was going on, like when I went inside, I'm like, you know what? Let's just get all 3. And I got all 3. Only 2 out of those 3 games were worthwhile, and the other one was a regret. So, yeah. That right there is a regret. The only other game I could probably say that I regret buying, that I could really think of, there's a few. Many games I did not play. Like, there was a Ghost Recon game for the 3DS, Ghost Recon Shadow Wars, which was more of a tactics style game. Like, think Fire Emblem, but with guns and all that. And even then, it wasn't good. It was just first year, came out within, I think either at launch or within the first few months of the 3DS. And there was a Samurai Warriors game that I bought at launch for 3DS, and I just kind of got bored of it. I just traded it in, years later. Those I know for a fact that I regret getting. And yeah, there's probably more, but those are the ones that come to mind right now. So now we move on to the next thing. Was there a game you wanted to get but passed up on it in favor of a different game? And did you regret not getting that game when you had the chance? We're going to start with you, Rox.
So, for me, when I was a kid, my mom took me to a Walmart and let me get one game. The very first game I saw was Conker's Bad Fur Day, and I really wanted to get it, and my mom, being a good mother, went, "No, it's a rated M game. You're only 5 years old, so no." And I ended up getting Diddy Kong Racing instead. Nowadays, I don't mind that I missed out on it, but well, I don't miss. So I don't mind that I missed out on it in the sense of it being a good game, but I'm kind of disappointed that I missed out on it just because it's one of the more expensive Nintendo 64 titles nowadays.
That's fair, yeah. Because I know, like, yeah, Diddy Kong Racing is a really good game, but now it's hard because Conquer did not sell that well. So, especially when it came out, it was like being a late N64 game, combined with the fact that it was an M-rated game on a platform where the majority of the people who were playing it were of a younger demographic. Yeah, it came out the wrong time, to be honest. But yeah.
Yeah. Something else I regret is I don't know if you would count this, but I kind of regret not sticking with Pokemon because I kind of passed up after Gen 1 because Generation 1 just didn't do it for me. I passed up pretty much every other generation after that up until Gen 6 where I got back into it. And I just, yeah, when it came to RPGs, I just stuck with Mario and Luigi for a long time, and I kind of regret that.
Yeah. Like, to be fair, like, in regards to Pokemon, some games have been hit and miss. And I know that recently, like, the anniversary of X and Y just passed, like, a couple days ago. And that one, like, it's one of those games where I can't really say I regret getting, but it's one of those games where story sucks, but in terms of the gameplay, it was probably like up there as one of the better games at the time if you're into competitive. But yeah, for Pokemon, it's been hit and miss, so you probably might have missed some stuff, and you probably like didn't. But that's just how things were. But what? Anything else that comes to mind, Rox?
I passed up on Pokemon. This kind of falls into the same thing, but this one is like I passed up on it specifically in favor of picking up. I think it was Epic Mickey on Wii. I don't remember if it released around the same time. I just remember like I saw both games, and for whatever reason, I chose Epic Mickey over Pokemon Black 2, and that's another one of my regrets.
Well, Epic Mickey came out a few years before Black 2, but yeah.
Yeah, it might have been. So I think it was. Oh man, I'm trying to think. When did I do that? Because it was. I want to say back in like 20. It was sometime when I was in high school. I don't remember the exact years. Just they were both like my GameStop was having a sell and could only get one game, and I just picked Epic Mickey over that.
Yeah, Epic Mickey to me is a decent game. Not the best 2D platform. Not the best 3D platform I played, but I thought it was solid.
Yeah. It's definitely better in the second game.
Oh, I'm not touching the second game. Yeah. Anything else, or that's all you can think of for now?
I think that's all I can think of at the moment.
All right, no problem. Shad, what about you? Was there a game you wanted to get but passed up on it in favor of a different game? And did you regret not getting that game when you had the chance?
I can't think of any exact examples of that. I'm generally, when I decide to get a game, I'm just not paying attention to other games. I don't really go in trying to pick either I get this game or that game.
Yeah.
And so while there is games that I've missed out on, I don't always remember what other games came out around that time.
Yeah.
Two kind of tangential examples, though. One is, in general, Final Fantasy. It wasn't as much as I'm a huge fan of JRPGs. I didn't try any Final Fantasy mainline games for a very long time.
Yeah.
part of it was they were on Sony for a while, and I didn't have a Sony system. But in like Super Nintendo, I was I wasn't aware. I was too young. I wasn't aware of those types of games.
Yeah.
But there was time period, like Game Boy Advance, for example, got some Final Fantasy remakes. There were chances I had, and I just kind of felt, oh, well, Final Fantasy is just the kind of cliche, stereotypical JRPG, and so I'd always pick something less big name than Final Fantasy. And I do kind of regret not getting into it sooner, because it is a lot of games that I still only have done a handful of the mainline ones. It's a lot of they're all long games. There's a lot of games to like get to. I wish I did them earlier on.
Yeah.
The other kind of tangential example I can think of is back when the Toys to Life thing started, I initially got the first Skylanders game and got a handful of those figurines, and I enjoyed them. I liked the gameplay. Then Disney Infinity came out, and well, for one, I'm a big Disney fan, and I liked kind of the sandbox stuff, the creative, being able to make your own things. In general, like the Toys to Life things, those are expensive investments. So I had to make a choice, and I decided to go all in on Disney. I also Disney has so much money, they're probably going to milk this way longer than anybody else. I got every figurine except for one of them that I couldn't find for Disney Infinity 1.0, and I wish I got it when I had the chance, because it's the only one I was missing. It was the Italian race car from Cars.
Yeah.
And then I got every figurine for 2, and then every figurine for 3, and then they, out of nowhere, canceled support.
Yeah.
And I was so upset. Like, I wish that I either stuck with Skylanders, because it at least didn't end mid-game. Like, 3.0 had unreleased content they just didn't release because they canceled so suddenly.
Yeah.
Or even more so, I wish I went into Lego Dimensions, because that looked really cool. But I went all in on Disney Infinity. I have almost every figurine, but I kind of wish I went with one of the other ones. As much as I did enjoy it, I was very frustrated when it was canceled.
Yeah. That sucks.
Yeah.
Now, what about you, Homecoming? Was there a game you wanted to get, but passed up in favor of a different game, and did you regret not getting that game when you had the chance?
Yes, there are a couple. So first off, I want to say that I agree with Rox. The only difference is that my story involves a rental store where I tried renting Conker's Bad for a day. I was like, but this looks like Banjo-Kazooie. I was like, but. And my dad was like, nah, bud, try something else. And I was like, fine. He's like, you're too young. And I was like, but it looks like Banjo-Kazooie. But, I wasn't wrong. But, okay, so here's a couple games I regret passing over. Back in the 3DS era, I actually regret passing over, Project Cross Zone 1 and 2. Because even though they are 7 out of 10 games, a 7 out of 10 isn't a failing grade. There's quality to be had there. And the fact that I had to dish out $80 earlier this year to get the second one, I regret passing that one up from the get-go. I didn't think it would be hard to find. Some games that I regret passing up as well that are just super expensive now are games like Rhythm Heaven Fever on the Wii.
Yeah.
Because I love Rhythm Heaven, and I just didn't pick up Rhythm Heaven Fever for whatever reason. And so I never got to own that one physically, and I wish I could. And then one other game that I regret passing over that was kind of cheap before, but now not so much. So many of these games, I feel like for this section specifically, are like games that we all picked up that we didn't know would skyrocket in terms of the retro gaming market. And one game that I regret not picking up is when I had a GameCube and I was collecting for it in college, was Skies of Arcadia, because it was like kind of 40, 50-ish. It was a little higher back then, but compared to it now, just yikes.
Yeah, that game goes for a lot of money right now. That's another one right there. Yeah. Ian, Mr. Ben in the chat even says same. Because that game, I don't know how much it goes for now, but it definitely is not 50. That's for sure.
Last time I checked, it's in the hundreds. Hang on.
Yeah. But yeah, any other games you regret passing up? Homecoming?
Not really. It feels like a lot of them. Some of the ones I passed up are still pretty easy to get now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, say, I passed over Fortune Street, but everywhere I see Fortune Street, it's like $25, which is not bad.
Yeah.
Like, I consider a retro game not bad if it is, my threshold for not bad is if it is lower than its original retail price, it's still its original retail price, or if it's $15 to $20 higher. Like, if something used to be 60 and it just sold really poorly and it's now 70 or 80,
Yeah.
and I can live with that. I can live with that. Like, Dragon Quest 4 and 5 on DS, I can still get those. I got Dragon Quest 9 for $42. And that's basically what it used to be with tax. Like, that's just a little over. It's not detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say maybe, you know what? Actually, there is one. There's one you actually jogged, I had a light bulb moment. Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, because that used to be 30 and now it's 100. And I like both of those series a lot. And I didn't pick it up because
It's such a good game too.
I hope with the surge of Ace Attorney love and with the return of Layton, it gets like an HD port. That would
That'd be
like,
great.
it would be great. The reason I didn't pick it up was a really kind of dumb / biased reason. It was during the Ace Attorney 4, 5, and 6 era, so I was really not having it with the franchise. Like, I was really like, especially after playing 4 and 5, I was like, I'm not getting this. Ace Attorney is trash now. So that's why I didn't get it. And I wish I would have at least been curious enough to try it when it wouldn't hurt my wallet so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'll add that to my list of games I regret not picking up, but it's not the biggest one for me, but there's going to be bigger ones. Before I go on with mine, do you have any other ones, Homecoming, or that's it?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right, so here's the big one. Let's start with this one. Okay, so this was around the time when GameStops across the United States were starting to get rid of GameCube games and also Game Boy Advance games. This was during like the 2014, I think, around this time. There's one GameCube game that was $3, that I had the opportunity to get, and I didn't do it. I don't know why I didn't do it, but I didn't do it. And to this day, I'm kicking myself for it because it's now one of the most expensive games to get. Or maybe I'm probably overblowing it, but then again, at the same time, Shad actually sent me a link to it, to which it's not that expensive. And you wonder what game it is? Mega Man Network Transmission for the GameCube. Because it was $3. It was $3 back in 2014. I had the opportunity to get it. I don't know why I didn't get it. I didn't even buy anything there that day, and I didn't get it. And now I'm like, I should have done that, because they were getting rid of GameCube games and Game Boy Advance games around this time, because you could not play Game Boy Advance games on a 3DS, and Wii U did not have GameCube backwards compatibility, so they just wanted to get rid of whatever they had. So that could have been a game I would have had in my collection, sitting right over there with all my GameCube games on that white shelf right there. And no, I don't have it. So that sucks, though. I unfortunately did not get that game. That's a big example, but there have been some other ones. Like, Mr. Ben actually brought up the Misadventures of Tron Bonne for the PS1. That's another one. And also, for the record, Mega Man Legends 2. That's another game I regret not getting for PS2. I really should have, considering the fact that I do have the first one on Nintendo 64. Though, I'm hoping Capcom releases the inevitable Mega Man Legends Legacy Collection, because then at least I would be able to play it on a modern platform or on PC. So, please, Capcom, release that collection. You just released the Battle Network collection. Legends is the next one that you could release. Please do it, Capcom. Yeah. Another one. Let's see. Another game that I've passed up that I absolutely regret not getting. There's a lot of games. There's a lot of GameCube games that I felt I should have bought, but now I regret not getting when I had the chance, because now they're extremely expensive. Like, for example, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Although now we're going to get a remake, but the principle is that there was one time where the most expensive it was about like $50, which doesn't seem so bad now. I should have done it then, because now it goes for like hundreds. And another one that I wanted to get was there was a game on GameCube that I wanted to get, but I passed up, and that's Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg.
Yeah, I like that one.
I don't even want to know how much that game goes for now.
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
Another one I would probably say is basically trying to rebuy a couple of games I wanted to get, but like A Link to the Past / Four Swords for Game Boy Advance, because I used to have it and it got stolen, and I wanted to get it again at like a couple of conventions, but it was about like $30 at the time. I think it might be more now. I have the GameCube one. Just want to let you know, I have the GameCube one for Four Swords. But that's another one right there. Same thing with Fire Emblem. I should have bought Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn for $50 at Nintendo New York years ago, when they still had copies, because now it goes for a lot more money. Basically, any first party Nintendo game that I regret not buying, that I regret just passing up, and now like I'm paying the price for the fact that they go for a lot of money these days. But Billy Hatcher going for $70, okay, that's not as bad as some other games, but still a bit steep in my opinion for that game. Though I do have to wonder just how much how much would Wii games actually cost, because I think Wii games are probably going to go up soon.
Yeah.
But those are the games that I would probably say that I regret not getting. Sometimes, some instances I bought a different game instead, and other instances I just didn't get anything else. I just passed on it. Though the worst is when you wanted to get it, but you were short on cash, so you couldn't afford it at the time. And then when you go back, when you have the money, it's not there, and it never comes back. That's even worse.
Yeah.
Happens a lot, too. Yeah. But, let's see. So, this one, I'm not sure how much time we'll spend on this topic, part of the topic, but what are some mistakes you've made while playing video games that still haunt you to this day? Shad?
Well, I make mistakes playing video games a lot, and so it's hard for me to often remember them because I'm always making the latest one, especially with long games like JRPGs where I just make choices that end up costing me hours more than I need to, but like a few that I can think of specific. One, actually, unfortunately, every time that I see or interact with Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, I have to remember. I'm just forced to remember when I got that game on the Wii, launch day for the Wii, and I was early on in the game where you get turned into a wolf. Or no, it's before you get turned into a wolf.
Yeah.
And exploring the woods, and because I think you have to go save a monkey. And I got into like the big open part of the woods, and I saw these tree stumps that kind of looked like maybe I could jump between them. They were very small, but it looked like there was a path going up them. I spent over an hour of my life that day that game launched trying to go up that. Eventually, after I had a friend with me too, so I was wasting time. We could be doing stuff. Somewhere between an hour and a half, I end up finally giving up. Then a little while later, you get turned into a wolf, and you go back through there, and there's all this poison fog, and you use those stumps to jump through the action commands or whatever.
Yeah.
To go across it, and I was like, I wasted all that time trying to do that as Link, and I wasn't even supposed to go up there.
Right.
And I think of that every time that I think of Twilight Princess now. I think it might be some of the reason I was so frustrated with the game the first time I played it and didn't give it a fair thought was I started out off on the wrong foot with the game. Thankfully, when it got the re-release, I tried the game again, and I appreciate it a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
A few other things. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. It's a card-based Game Boy Advance game.
Mm-hmm.
Several times when I've played that, so when I play card-based deck builder games, a lot of times there's a good strategy in trying to get rid of cards permanently and thinning out your deck to make it more efficient.
Yeah.
Several times I've played Chain of Memories, and I've done that and then wound up with too few cards that I can't progress. And it's dumb. I shouldn't do that, but it's my instinct. In a similar case is one, the first time I played Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, which is my favorite Fire Emblem game, but the first time I played it, it was the second Fire Emblem game we got in the West, and unlike the first Fire Emblem game we got, you can actually grind in that, which I was like, okay, I'll go to this optional area and grind.
Yeah.
I didn't think about the fact that because weapons break and these optional areas get very little gold, I ended up grinding too much and ran out of weapons and couldn't progress in the game and had to restart the entire game.
Wow.
Hours wasted. And then the last thing I could think of, more recently, Marvel Snap has been a thing I've been kind of on and off doing. And maybe the second season after I started, there was the theme was Spider-Man
yeah
stuff, and for getting to rank 100, you got a really cool card back for Ghost Spider. And I got to like rank like 98 or 99, I think, and I just needed like a tiny bit more to get there, and I started getting overconfident. I kept snapping, which increases the amount you can win, but also increases the amount you can lose. And I just kept dropping levels, and I never got back. I never got that card back.
Ooh. Yeah.
I went down all the way down below 90, and I was just like, I screwed it up.
Yeah. Funny enough, Shad, you mentioned Marvel Snap. Both Homecoming and Rox have played it as well.
Nice. Fun game.
Yeah. And Homecoming, speaking of you, you're next. What are some mistakes you made while playing video games that still haunt you?
Okay, so I have a couple of them. One of them is actually fairly recently, and that was getting too confident that I stopped using a save state when I should have, and stopped using a rewind feature when I should have. And that is with TMNT for the NES. And I played through it, and I got to the Technodrome, and it was really late at night, so I wasn't saving or rewinding much anymore. Got to the Technodrome, got a game over, and where was my restore point? Just not after, but before the dam level.
Wow.
So I had to do it over again. And I did it. I beat it. I got my platinum. I beat the Turtles. I beat every single game of the Cowabunga collection. And I hate it. I hate the NES game now. Insert the AVGN quote about it right here, because that's how I feel.
It's just like that game was janky. I could say that much.
Donatello is your only hope in that game. The Royal You. Like, for anyone who ever wants to play it, Donatello is your only hope. The other three are just meat shields. You want to get through something? Just throw out Mikey. Who cares if Mikey dies? Well, I mean, we would all care if Mikey died. He is a party dude, but, like, yeah. The three are meat shields. Donatello is your only way to... Because half those bosses are, like, either up in the air or flying around, or like the Technodrome with the eye. Like, the only way to decently land hits on those bosses is as Donatello. Yeah. You always have to have him like on standby. So yeah, that was a pretty decently big regret. Another one was I have quite a few. That was the most like recent one, but I would say that one of them is would you count like a gaming regret thing, including sticking with a game that you're like not having fun with?
Yeah.
Oh, then me beating Battletoads 2020, me going through the entirety of that game just to say that I did it. I regret that constantly. I still think about that. I still think about, I could have been playing any other game, but I sat there with some of you and some of our other friends in a voice call, basically screaming at a game all night. I beat it. I did it. I guess I could say I did it, but yeah, the Battletoads 2020, and then I think my last one is, I'm gonna say this. So I had a really rough year last year.
Yeah.
And because of that, because of real life stuff, I didn't get to enjoy basically the last 3 months of last year. So people were like, yeah, Sonic Frontiers, a good 3D Sonic game, or yeah, Scarlet and Violet, it's super janky, but it's our super janky game. And like, I definitely like was in not a good like mental place there. And this bleeds into Scarlet and Violet, where I didn't read. For those who have played Scarlet and Violet, and for those who have not played, you get to go on a big treasure hunt, and you get to explore the world and do the storylines in any way, any order that you want to. And I go up there, I get to the school, and they send me off on my treasure hunt. But I skip through the dialogue, and I skim fast. And I don't notice that there's a giant door on the left of the city and a giant door on the right. And I go back out the front. I then proceeded to spend 3 days on Route 1, just killing Pokemon after Pokemon. Being like, hey, where's the game begin? Trying to get over those mountains. Setting different markers and being like, how can I not get up over this hill? What's going on? Is this game busted? And I ended up being really mad at the game. Little did I know that if I had walked back in the city and checked the map, I would have noticed 2 giant double doors on the left and the right. But I went out the way that you came in. I went back to my house. I went back to Nemona's house. I walked up and down Route 1. I got in the water, which my Miradon couldn't do. And struggled. So while everybody was talking about, oh my gosh, I beat a gym, I was on a call with Rox, and it was the funniest thing, because Rox was like, heck yeah, I'm gonna beat this gym. And then Rox was like, I wasn't ready. And I watched, I heard Rox take on a gym in real time, and then come back to it. I heard Rox have a full 3-act structure. Like, Rox went into the town, lost, went out, and went back in, and won in the span of this call. Meanwhile, I'm on Route 1, going back and forth, and up and down the street, looking for fights, looking for something to do. Lo and behold, my Fuecoco evolved on Route 1. Because that's how much time I spent. I'm like, oh, I want to try doing a terror raid. I want to try taking out a gym. And that is a gaming regret that stuck with me, because for 3 days, not 3 hours, 3 full days, I just wandered Route 1, and that one sticks with me.
Wow. That right there is a regret. Wow. Holy shit, that was absolutely amazing. Amazing in a sense where I did not expect that to be what the outcome was, but wow. Just wow.
Rox also beat the game in the time. I was still on Route 1, and Rox beat the game in like a weekend. So I'm like sitting I'm sitting here, and Rox's like, heck yeah, I'm the champion! And I'm like, how do I get there?
Yeah.
Like, I was really invested in that game.
Yeah. And Rox, what about you? What were some mistakes you made while playing video games that haunt you?
Too many that I can list out here, but just a few. This is a very recent mistake that I made during a Let's Play of The Simpsons Hit and Run.
All right.
So the most recent level that I just finished was the last level, which just so happens to be Treehouse of Horror themed. And during the final 3 missions, they're all essentially the same.
Yeah.
You have to drive from the school to the power plant, pick up a barrel of nuclear waste, and then drive back from the power plant to the school and let your car get abducted by the alien UFO so it can blow it up. You have to do that 3 times. On the final one, you have to do it with Abe Simpson's car, which is like a military Jeep with a rocket strapped to the back of it. And his is one of the fastest cars in the game. Now, the way the game punishes you is during this mission, if you ram into anything, or if anything rams into you hard enough, the nuclear waste that you were carrying blows up and you have to drive back to the power plant to get another barrel.
Yeah.
Wasting time all the while. So I already knew this mission was going to be a pain in the ass. So I used a mod that essentially just turns off the time limit. That didn't stop this mission from being a pain anyway, because it took me 20 tries. I cut it out during the Let's Play, but it took me 20 tries. At one point, I kid you not, I made it back to the school with the nuclear waste. I was right there. The UFO was literally right in front of me. I lightly tapped a wall and it blew up.
Yeah.
And then what made it even worse was that the game crashed on me right after that.
Oh my god, dude. That's awful.
Yeah. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two is literally any play that I've ever made in Marvel Snap.
Yep.
My issue with Marvel Snap is I get like, if I'm on a win streak, sometimes I'll get overly. No, like, if I'm on a losing streak, I'll get like really impatient. I'll just start snapping because I just want to hurry up and start getting into the higher tiers, which in turn will cause me to lose even more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a game that punishes you for overconfidence.
It does.
Yeah. And the last mistake I'll mention is in Mario 64. For whatever reason, I was just going through the game. So you know how whenever you get a star, it asks you, do you want to save?
Yeah.
So one time I tried to just beat the game in one day, and every time it asked me, did I want to save, I just said no. The power just decided to go out that day, and I had to do the entire game over again.
Save often in games.
Always save your games. That's just what I have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get cocky like I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The only exception is if you're playing Pokemon and you're trying to soft reset each and every time to get a shiny Pokemon. But other than that, save every time. Yeah. All right. Mistakes. All right. Where do I begin? So, I remember there was this one time I was playing, well, one of the more recent ones was Deadly Premonition, just not saving at a certain point, which, again, I should have taken that advice, but it got to a point where I had to go all the way, like, I was just driving around trying to get to a certain spot, but I was taking the long way, and I ran out of fuel in the police car that I was in, the one I was driving in, and all of a sudden, when I ran out of fuel, there weren't, because like the only cars you could actually drive with are like police cars, police vans, since you are of the FBI. Well, the main character is the FBI agent, and there weren't any others in sight, so I had to restart the chapter from the beginning of that chapter just so that I could do it again, and it was tedious. So I made a mistake and not because the main mistake from that was going the wrong way in the map. And I ended up taking a much longer route than I'm supposed to. So I had to do it again just so I could actually get to the route that I needed to go. Excuse me. Another one I could probably think of. Another one is playing Echo the Dolphin. Excuse me. But yeah. Not Not really. That was a joke. I don't like Echo the Dolphin, but that's not a mistake. But what is a mistake, mind you, is when I actually played it's one of the Mega Man X games. I remember when I first played Mega Man X4, I remember there was a point where I was trying to get like there was a heart tech that I was trying to get. I remember it being in Jet Stingray's stage, and what I remember, yeah, it was Jet Stingray. Yeah, he was an X4, and what I remember was I was trying to reach it, but I keep just missing out on it, and then like I just keep dying afterwards. It took me a while just to get that heart, so I could be able to expand my health. But yeah, I gotta think of some other mistakes, but those are the only ones I can come up with. All right. So next up, were there games that you regret selling? Homecoming?
Oh my. Oh my. Well, here's one. So, games I regret selling. A couple of these I've rebought. Some of them I never have. I regret selling this. I owned both Mystical Ninja games for the N64. I regret selling those. I regret selling both of those very much. I hope to maybe re-own them or they get re-released someday. I also regret selling Mega Man Star Force 3 because for a while it was like 300 and I found a copy for 70 and I got it. But I regret selling Mega Man Star Force 3.
Oh yeah.
I regret. This is gonna be a small cop-out before I give like one of my big answers. I regret ever selling anything at GameStop. If you're gonna trade in games, do it at your retro game stores. Retro game stores will give you more in-store credit or cash and are like mindful. Like GameStop doesn't judge you. Like, so for example, say I walk into a retro game store with a game in box with manual or just a game, they are going to give you a little bit more if you have like a complete one. Like they're mindful of that.
Yeah.
GameStop, you could give them a copy of something with a Coca-Cola stain on it and your dog peed on it, and yeah, you know what? It's the same price.
You know
we're
what,
gonna give you 5.
Homecoming,
What?
you are 100% correct on that. Perfect example. This past weekend, I traded in my OG Xbox, and originally they were just going to give me 40 for it, but because it was one of the cleanest Xboxes they've ever seen, they ended up giving me 60.
It's fair. That's fair, but see, they only like really go like, oh, the game's in the box. Like they don't check for manuals or anything, and so. But this is the big one, and this is a game that either needs a re-release or will hopefully go down in price someday. I owned this. I owned everything with it, and I sold everything with it for like $70 back in the day. Solo Torobo Red the Hunter for the Nintendo DS.
I would give anything to own that game.
Me too.
It is not like. Now, I will say that part of the game being what it is it being hyped up a little bit. It's a 7 out of 10 game. It's not like great, but it's still pretty good. Like it's flawed but fun. But I think some of the factors about it that people like are really all over is the fact that it's so rare. That's a point that I'd like to bring up. That's one of our mutual friends told me that like maybe some of these games get slightly overhyped because of how rare they are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Path of Radiance. There have been some really good Fire Emblem games that have come out since, and for the cost of one Path of Radiance or Radiant Dawn, you can get Awakening and 3 houses and still have plenty of money to go do other things.
Right.
So, I think that is interesting, but yes, Red the Hunter is one of the regrets I have. Not just because I did enjoy the game, not only because there are aspects of it that I liked, but because of how expensive it got. So yeah, that's the big one. Selling Red the Hunter still definitely every time I ever. The only thing that makes me feel a little bit better is that like Red the Hunter is say not as much as say a copy of a game like Little Samson or Flintstone's Dinosaur Peak.
Ooh.
Yeah, the fact that my local retro game store has a copy of Little Samson and it says 2,499 on it, I'm like, no. Just no.
No, not at all. It's too much. Way too much.
But for the cost of a used car, you can own this one NES game.
No,
I
that's
bought used cars cheaper than that. I'm not even joking. I bought two of my cars put together were cheaper than that. So
Yeah.
Somewhere out there, there's someone out there, some guy's wife is super disappointed. She's like, honey, I sent you out to get a used car. What do you get? Holds the copy of Little Samson behind his back. Yeah, about that.
Fun fact about Little
that's
Samson.
from Jack and the Beanstalk. Crap.
That is. Fun fact about Little Samson. The guy who made that game, because he left Capcom to make this game, he worked on the first 2 Mega Man games. He was the original creator of Mega Man, not Keiji Inafune. He left Capcom and made Little Samson, and it did not sell well at all, even though I heard the game is really good. Damn. 2,499. What the fuck?
2,500, basically.
Yeah.
I could buy a house with that.
I could just
House.
I could buy some of the games I could buy some of the games that Homecoming already mentioned and still have enough money.
I'm sorry, there's no game in history that I would pay that much for. So
Yeah. But those are some interesting games, Homecoming, that you regret selling.
yeah.
But now, Rox, your turn. What do you regret selling?
Rhythm Thief.
Yeah.
That every single time that game gets brought up in conversation, I die a little on the inside because I'm just like, I used to own this game. Why did I sell this? Not once, but twice. But another game I regret selling, which this is another game that I owned at one point. Luckily, I own it now, and I'm never selling it ever again. Animaniacs: The Great Egg Hunt, which is a pretty rare licensed game just because it was released in very limited quantities.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever played that one. I have not played that one, no.
So it's a 3D collectathon that's kind of sort of similar to DK64.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend it. It's a really good game. It's okay, not counting the Super Nintendo. I don't know. Would you consider the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis Animaniacs game better?
I haven't played the Super Nintendo one, but I have played the Genesis one. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's probably the third best Animaniacs game, but it's also one of the rarest licensed games to come by.
Right. Yeah.
Aside from Flintstones and Dinosaur Peak, which is going for $900.
Yeah, I don't understand.
What else, Rox? Anything else?
Persona Q1.
Wasn't that the dungeon crawler for 3DS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Persona Etrian Odyssey.
It's made by the Etrian Odyssey team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, also Project Cross Zone 1. I actually owned it and then I sold it.
Ooh.
Because I just like at the time my mindset was it's a sprite based game. I can't like explore these worlds, so I'm just not interested. I really wish I didn't have that mindset at the time.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, honestly, the thing about Project Cross Zone for me, is that the game is really good, but it's too long. It's way too long.
Yeah.
Any other examples you have?
Not off the top of my head. There was one I was gonna say, which is Conception 2, which was on the 3DS.
Oh, I have that game. I barely played it though.
Yeah, like I was gonna say that one, but I looked it up on price charting. Apparently, for a loose copy, it only goes for like $20.
Okay.
It's a weird game.
Yeah. Don't that game is very not PG.
Yeah. I mean, the name already you can tell. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, those are some interesting games that you mentioned, Box. Shad, what about you? What were some games you regret selling?
I get to save you some time because I don't sell my games. The only time in my life that I ever really sold games is the Super Nintendo era where I was really young and I had zero control over really much with my games, and so if I wanted a new game, I had to sell an old game. And ultimately, the only one that I think I sold that I actually cared about was Super Mario RPG, but I got it back before the Super Nintendo era was over. So anything else, I don't even remember what I might have had from that era, and anything after that, I haven't sold any games.
Okay.
I kind of hoard. So
yeah,
even if I hate the game, I still have Mario Sticker Star. I'll never touch it again.
Well,
sometimes you just gotta pick up something and aggressively glare at it and then just put it down and be glad that you have that.
It's a testament to I suffered through it. So
yep.
Homecoming, that's me with Spy vs. Spy. Well, that was me before I sold it.
Okay. Well, here's a few for me. Like, I don't really sell games, but there are some games. One of which I could tell you, the first one, I did get it back this year, actually, a few months ago when I went to Long Island Retro. And that game is Soul Calibur 2 for the GameCube. We sold it years ago because we really needed the money because times were pretty rough and we were slowly heading towards the recession back in 2008, but we sold it in 2007, so we really needed the money at the time, so there was that. But I did get it back this year. I actually had some credit when I went to Long Island Retro. I had leftover credit from when I won a Puyo Puyo Tetris tournament in an event that the same staff hosted last December. And then I brought that with me. It was like $20. And then me and my buddy Silverstone, we won a trivia contest. It was like a gaming trivia that they had. And and we got about like $25 in credit to use on whatever we wanted at Long Island Retro. So that, and combining with the 20 that I had, which funny enough, the $20 they had it on a poker chip is in the credit, and I used that because I was originally going to use it for Super Metroid, but I could not find a English copy. So, like, they were already out of it. So, number 2 on the list of the games that I wanted to get at the con was Soul Calibur 2 for GameCube. So they had it for $40. I used it to I used the credit to get it back, and I ended up getting $5 in credit left over, which I ended up using for one of those dice roll games, and I got like a random prize out of it. But yeah, so it's a game that I regretted selling, but I have since bought it back.
Quick question about that. When you got it, did you get it complete? Like, did it have the manual and stuff?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Complete manual, and it's not the greatest hits version. It's the original one.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yep. So, Soul Calibur 2 is back in my household, and I eventually want to test these games out. I just gotta eventually find a way to set up my GameCube. I want to get like a retro tank so I can hook up old retro consoles to my TV, and then start testing them out to see what works. Because I also own one of the rarest games on the GameCube, which is Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire. Because that was an exclusive to Pokemon Center New York, back when that was a thing before it became Nintendo World / Nintendo New York. But in terms of other games that I regret selling, some of the games that I regret selling, I ended up getting it back. But a couple of Genesis games, but I'm probably gonna get some of them back. Not all of them, like the ones that are. But I'm only gonna get back the really good ones. In terms of what else I've sold that I regret selling, SSX Tricky. I sold it for Wii points. Not the best decision I've made.
Yeah.
What did you get? Do you remember what you got with the Wii points?
Yeah, yes. Don't get me wrong. The games that I got Metroid on NES and Super Metroid for Super Nintendo. This is back in 2007 when both of those released on the Virtual Console around that time. Because it was around the time when Metroid Prime 3 Corruption was coming out. So, granted, great games. But as
great games that you got digitally on one platform, and
at the cost of selling a game that might actually go a certain amount. I'm gonna have to take a look at price charting to see how much SSX Tricky costs on GameCube, because
I can check that for you right now.
Yeah.
Last I saw, because I did see this recently, because I want to collect for GameCube, but it is so dang expensive, and kind of hard.
Yeah.
But for last I saw SSX Tricky, I saw it for about 25, 35. It's not.
Yeah, I'm looking on price charting for a loose copy. It'll run you about like $21. For a complete copy, like 25.
Yeah.
It's not bad at all.
Not bad at all, indeed.
yeah.
Yeah. So, let's see. So, now the next thing, we have one more topic before we go to the community questions. If you could go back and make some different decisions regarding purchasing games, would you do it, and why? And, Rox, we're going to start with you.
I would. And that decision would essentially be just not trading anything in, because over the years I've come to learn that a lot of what I traded in would just end up becoming extremely rare later on. And so I just really regret whittling down my gaming library just in favor of getting one game at GameStop, and it's just, ooh, yeah. If I could go back in time, let's just say I have a much larger gaming collection right now.
Yeah. What about you, Shad?
Several things. I would, back in my younger years of the Super Nintendo, I would have done more RPGs. I got Super Mario RPG, and that was about it for the Super Nintendo. And it was until much later that I played any of the Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger. Like, I wish I got into that then. I wish there's a handful of games I rented that I really liked that I never picked up that I wish I got. Like, Super Nintendo had Uni Racers. The N64 had Iggy's Wrecking Balls and Beetle Adventure Racing.
Yep.
And GameCube had Amazing Island, which I'm aware almost nobody knows what that even is.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an incredible game, but it was. I liked it. I wish I would have tried or gotten Kirby Air Ride. I haven't even played Kirby's Air Ride, but I hear it's great. I wish that I really got into PSO on the GameCube, Phantasy Star Online, and I got the adapter, the LAN/Wi-Fi thing, but I never actually pulled the trigger and got a subscription to play it online. And I wish I did. I never even used the adapter.
Yeah.
I wish I got Pokemon Pinball, Ruby and Sapphire. I wish I got into Persona sooner than this year, because that's a lot of Persona games I have to go through now to catch up. I wish I got Etrian Odyssey Nexus. I skipped that one, and I wish I got the Dylan's Rolling Western and sequels. I never got those.
Oh yeah.
The two Fire Emblem games on consoles like Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wish I got the TurboGrafx 16 Mini when it was available. I completely wrote it off, and now I wish I didn't.
Yeah, it came out during the pandemic, so...
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to have work through the pandemic, so I probably could have bought it. I slept on it.
Yeah.
And that's it for me.
Alright. Homecoming?
So I slept on a mini that I wish I would have gotten as well, which is the Neo Geo mini.
Ooh.
I wish I would have gotten that. I just didn't. And in terms of gaming regrets, it's a yes and a no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret getting the games I did because they made me the gamer I am today. Like, even with bad game experiences, I definitely am like glad that I had them, because it made me like who I am as a content creator, as a person, and as a gamer, and it formed my tastes. Because, like, yes, I did own Duck Amuck on the DS, and that was not a great purchase, but I also, as a kid, had the insight to pick up stuff like the Mega Man Zero collection, or get Kirby Superstar Ultra, just because they look cool on the Nintendo channel where they had trailers.
Yeah.
So it's like a yes and a no. I say yes because I would not have sold Custom Robo. I would have not... not Custom Robo. Solito Robo. I would have bought Custom Robo because I rented it and loved it, and it's a great underrated series. But I would have kept more of what I have. I am content with my game collection, and I enjoy retro hunting now. Like, I enjoy what I have. I enjoy that I'm challenging myself to get every game. Currently, I'm trying to get every game on the DS featuring Mario. So, I'm having a lot of fun with that. But yeah, it's a yes and no. Like, yes, I regret selling some of those games, and I regret not picking up some of those games and wish I could do something a little different. And it's mostly in the realm of I wish I kept these because now I want to play them again, or I wish I just like held on to them. But I guess the only other thing that I wish I would have done differently is getting, like, kind of bounce off of what Shad said, like, getting into other series, like, trying, like, I mostly played a lot of Mario and Kirby and Sonic. I wish I would have gotten into stuff like Fire Emblem, like, way earlier than I did. Or tried certain things that I wish I tried. So yeah, or even I had mostly Nintendo consoles up until the PS4. I wish I would have tried diversifying a little bit, you know. Maybe I would have, if I went back and got a PS2 instead, I would have played Spyro and Ratchet and Clank and all these games a lot sooner than I have now, because by only having Nintendo stuff, I've missed out on a lot of really cool console exclusives. Some of them that I'm still trying to get to, like it's Sly Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do that one. It's
Yes.
on my list eventually.
Same.
Or as I like to call it, Lupin the Third.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Like, eventually I'll get into those games myself. Yeah, that's the thing. There's just so many games out there in so many years, and you're never really going to know which ones you need to get and which ones you need to avoid. That being said, for me, the main thing is just, I kind of wish I got into certain video game series a lot sooner than when I did. But there's one lesson I should have learned when I was a lot younger. Not all licensed games are good. Not all licensed games are good.
Quite the opposite. That's honestly was less common that they were good than. I mean, back in the 8-bit and 16-bit era, there was a lot of good ones, but it kind of went downhill.
Yeah, like there were some good ones like Ninja Turtles, or like there were some good like Spider-Man games I've played. Like one of the best ones that I remember playing when I was a little kid. It was an arcade game.
There was a lot of great Disney games back then.
DuckTales.
There are a couple of good Looney Tunes games.
Yeah, DuckTales. There's also Looney Tunes. Yeah, there's some good Looney Tunes games, but then you have a lot of bad Simpsons games.
Yeah.
You have a lot of bad games that were based off of movies, like the Home Alone, or Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or The Karate Kid, like mediocre to really bad games. And then you have a game like Home Improvement for Super Nintendo. Now that's a bad game. It's so bad that when you look at the manual, it says real men don't use manuals.
Who thought a home improvement game was a good idea? What stuffy businessman was like, you know what? This would make a great video game.
Now,
You know
that's
what
bad.
I want to do? I want to play as Tim Allen fighting dinosaurs.
Most people could not even get past the first level. Like, congratulations, you paid like $50, $60, $70 on that game. Or if you want to go bottom of the barrel, there was a game on the Super Nintendo that cost $85 at launch, and it's one of the worst games on the platform. Pit Fighter. Fuck that game. Oof.
Does Tim Allen at least make the noise in the SNES game?
I don't remember, to be honest. But
I mean, it probably wouldn't sound great.
Yeah, I think he does it on the title screen, and that's it.
yeah. All right. So now we are going to move to the community questions. So the first one comes from Zykrul. What games were there that had you weigh your options between dropping it altogether or continuing to beat it due to the sunk cost fallacy? And Anyone could just answer whatever you want, like, because I'll have to think of mine, but you guys answer.
I mean, I already mentioned Sticker Star, and that's literally why I finished it. But there's a lot of games that I'm really bad with the sunk cost fallacy. I'll start playing something, I'll be like, I just need to at least finish it. I already bought it. I already started it.
Yeah.
For me, most Yu-Gi-Oh games, I've only recently come to realize that I'm not really all that great at card-based games because while there is a lot of skill that go into them, there's also a level of luck that goes into them as well, and I'm just not good at any game that requires luck.
All right, that's fair. What about you, Homecoming?
So the sunk cost fallacy. Well, sometimes I do, and sometimes I'm just stupid. Like with Battletoads. That was on Game Pass. I could have left anytime I wanted to. There was a nice open door right there, and I could have just walked out and went, well, I'm still paying for Game Pass. How about I go play Blinks the Time Sweeper? Someone has to remember.
I mean, that's still kind of sunk cost fallacy because you've already started it and you feel it's like time is the cost you put in. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, I already put in time. I might as well finish it off.
Yeah.
That is fair. For me, a big sunk cost fallacy. Sticker Star is one that I also have to second. The segment with the Wigglers kills me on the inside, where you have to go collect Wiggler's body parts.
It was the moment that I realized Sticker Star's battles don't matter, that there was no benefit to doing the battles, and it actually just wasted resources. That was when I realized that this game was just wasting my time.
Yeah.
That was kind of me with Origami King.
Yeah.
Fair.
Origami King, at least the battles were a little more engaging, I feel.
Yeah.
But they did take a long time.
Yeah, they're way more engaging than how they were for Sticker Star, that's for sure.
But those two games and Color Splash don't matter anymore because we're getting a 1,000 Year Door remake, so just throw those out the window.
Everybody, please buy that. Tell them we need more Mario RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though, that said, I do think that Mario RPG is going to outsell 1,000 Year Door, but that's a different topic for a different day. Go ahead, continue.
One other quick sunk cost fallacy that really still gets me is it's when I buy a game right away when it's brand new if I don't play it. Now, here's the thing, I stopped feeling guilty about that because, for example, I haven't finished Pikmin 4 this year, but I picked up and played through all of Violet a month ago. So sometimes you just gotta give yourself a little grace and say, you know what, if I don't feel like it, I'll get to it. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with putting off a game you don't feel like playing. You might end up restarting it next year and then marathoning it over a long weekend. So if you're like me and you drop something like Jedi Fallen Order and everyone around you is like, oh, how can you do that? Oh my gosh, it's such good, so good, peak game. Don't feel bad. That's my moral of the story. Just don't feel bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, another thing, don't feel bad if you stop a game because a phobia kicked in. Because that's me with a lot of games that feature spiders.
Oh, I can relate. I have arachnophobia.
Yeah. Let's see. So for me, if I had I'm going to pick one example. And for me, I'm not going to count emulation, unless it's on a surface that I can actually play the game on a platform. But I'm going to go with a game that I actually did play, and it's more of a free-to-play game. And even then, it's more the fact that I kind of felt like I was forcing myself to play it. Ninjala for the Switch. So
Ooh.
So the thing about Ninjala for Switch is, I remember there was a lot of hype for the game when there was that beta test and people had issues trying to get in because so many people were just getting it at once, and people were either getting kicked out of, people were getting disconnected, or people could not even get into a single game because there was so many people crashing the servers. But then, after that initial hype, not long after the game released, I did a stream for Ninjala because it was a community night. I wanted to just play Ninjala with people, but I was starting to feel like I was, at some point during the stream, I was feeling like I was forcing myself to play the game, and I would feel like I was forcing myself to have fun because I was on a major losing streak. Now, granted, losing isn't always everything, just like how winning isn't always everything, but it hurts. It sucks.
Yeah.
But the gameplay was just not engaging otherwise. I was hoping I would have fun with it, and the more I kept playing, the more I was like, yeah, I don't like this game. I really think Ninjala is just not fun. I tried playing it.
Also doesn't help that it locks its story mode behind a paywall, which, I mean, it's a free-to-play game, so I guess it makes sense, but...
And, yeah, I bought the story mode and I didn't even play it, so that's a regret right there. So, Ninjala for me. I ended up just not continuing it for sunk cost fallacy. And
that's fair, though.
So, moral of the story, if you're forcing yourself to play a game, whether it's single player or multiplayer, and you're forcing yourself to have fun, you're not going to have fun. You're never going to have fun. You're
even like,
you're just not going to enjoy the game. That's it.
The little like tidbit I'd say is that because even with me not enjoying a couple games in the Cowabunga collection, like the Game Boy games or those, like, I used a guide, I used the rewind feature, and like I felt satisfied when I got that platinum. So even though it was a challenge to do that damn level twice, I still got my goal, and then the dopamine hit. You catch what I'm saying?
Yeah. Let's see. Next one comes from Squire. Is there a piece of merchandise or gaming? Oh, we kind of already answered the whole selling the game thing, but
well, this is merchandise or gaming related.
Let's make this more for merchandise that's gaming related. That's not exactly for the game itself. Is there a particular piece of merchandise or gaming related thing you parted ways with that to this day gives you that tinge of I shouldn't have done that years later? And quite a few things, but I don't really remember any of them, so I don't really have a good answer for this question.
I have one. I have one that I can think of, and it's something about. I don't even know if it's necessarily worth the regret, but all these years I'll never forget it. Back when Pokemon first came out, I was 8, because that'd be 97. Before I even got the games, I got the trading cards. On my way to a karate lesson, my mom gave me a starter pack of the psychic deck, pre-made deck. And as soon as I got to karate, like everybody there also had like cards, and because that was the big thing, and trading cards. I, without knowing anything about any cards or anything about Pokemon really, traded my Mewtwo for a Zapdos. I had nothing to use with the Zapdos. I don't know if the Mewtwo, if that was even a good trade. Somebody offered it. I was like, oh, I want to interact with people. I'll do this. And it just kind of bugged me that I just blindly did that. But I was 8, so...
Yeah.
So, for me, the only one I can think of off the top of my head at the moment is back when I was like 6. I had... So, when Diddy Kong Racing first came out, they had these action figures that you could buy at Toys R Us that came with like a racer and in their cart. So the one I got was of Banjo. Never put him in the cart. I always just played with him as a solo figure. At some point, I lost that figure, and now that figure goes for like hundreds of dollars.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Banjo figurines are hard to find too. Banjo doesn't get a lot of love.
Yeah.
My best friend has that figure. He's not parting with it. He has a Banjo shrine. He has the plushies. He has the U2s. He has the amiibo. Any piece of Banjo merch out there, he buys.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell your friend to worship that figure because, oh my god, not only is it incredibly hard to find nowadays, it goes for like hundreds of dollars. So tell your friend to worship that figure.
Like, I have thought of one, to be honest. I've remember it's not really selling, but it was gone. I had some really good shirts, but I think there were some shirts that I've donated because either they're too small for me or they were kind of wearing out. But there was one shirt that I remember that was given away to Goodwill, and I wanted to keep it, but it was just thrown in a pile. It was a Ghost and Goblins shirt. And yeah, I really like that shirt, but it's gone now. I haven't had that shirt in so many years. But yeah, aside from that, the rest of the stuff is just basically just random toys that were either donated or given away, but not much else. So next question. All right, this one is from Dari Gamer. What was your most soul-crushing regret for future you as a gamer, and what they mean by that as in something happened, something you did in the past in gaming that you regret in the future. You guys were able to answer that one?
Yeah. Two things really quick. One, to answer the last question, I had the Mega Man action figures, and I missed those. I had like the X ones and the Zero ones and stuff.
Yeah. And
I wish I didn't get rid of those. And I had the Battle Network one too. Like, I got the Battle Network one at a Goodwill. So, but yeah. But then for this one, it's something from earlier. It's selling Solo to Robo. I think about that. I think about that often.
Yeah.
Like, that is a decision as a gamer that is like, I wish I could turn back time and stop myself from selling it. I don't know what would happen if I messed with the space-time continuum.
Nothing good.
Yeah, for all I know, it's like I could stop myself from selling Solo to Robo, and that would like lead down the line where like instead I've sold every single video game, but except for that one, and I'm like an alpaca farmer, and I'm not on this podcast. Like, we don't like
butterfly effect.
Yeah, the butterfly effect. It's like. But yeah.
If I don't sell Rhythm Thief, I die early. Wait a minute.
Oh
no! No!
But no, that's my gaming regret. I still think about as future me is just selling that game.
Hmm. Yeah. Let's see. What about you, Shad? Did you try to answer that one?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Anything that isn't covered in one of the other questions, because it seems like it's kind of a more all-encompassing question.
Yeah.
And I just kind of what I've already answered about different games that I wish I got into and different ones that I wish I didn't get.
Yeah. Pretty much anything that I've already said. So I don't really have anything else to add on that question, but
I did spend a lot of time on mediocre games, at least on like the Super Nintendo era, and I wish I spent more time on like higher quality stuff because it just added to my backlog when I was old enough to be aware of it all. I guess that works.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Anyway, next question comes from Professor Icepick. He has two. Number one, pretty much every gamer has experienced a time where two or more games they really want come out on the same day/week and have been forced to pick one over the other. Have you ever been in this situation and felt like you've ended up choosing to prioritize the wrong game in retrospect? And if so, how long did it take you to pick up the other game? Because for me, I can tell you right now that I don't really have that. So I
think that kind of fits into your topic too.
It fits into my top. Go ahead.
The second talking point you brought up, I think, is basically that.
Yeah. So I haven't really said anything that hasn't been said, but I guess if I had to go with anything, damn, I can't really think of anything. That's a hard one. What about you, Homecoming, Rox, Shad? You guys can think of anything?
Unfortunately, not anything. I've been in situations like that before. I just can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, I generally, if two games are coming out on the same day, I am pretty set on knowing which one I want.
Yeah.
And if I really want the other, I'll get it eventually, I know, so I don't get too bothered by it.
Yeah, I got nothing. Like, I was trying to think about it, but, like, more often than not, because I'm not into so many franchises, I seldom have this problem. I've had games that I want come out in the same month. That's happened before. But as for the same week thing, it's so rare that, like, when it does happen, I either, like Shad says, pick the game that I know I'm ready for, or more often than not, they'll be sandwiched between, like, oh, Fire Emblem, which I don't really care for, and then after that, it's like horror game that I don't really care for. But a Mario and a Kirby game are coming out in the same month, then I'm getting both of those and not getting a game the month before or the month after.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, that's the other way I handle it sometimes. I'll just be like, well, I'll get an extra game this month, and I just won't get a game next month because I like these two games more.
Yeah,
the only problem is when shadow drops happen, then it's like, dang it!
Yeah, like, this week is, like, one of the few times that's happened that actually kind of affected me, but like I said, usually when it happens, it's I just like you know, the other side, I just prioritize whichever one I know I want, like, right now.
Yeah.
Or in, like, the most extreme case, I'll just try to get both.
Yeah, that's fair, because it's mainly that I prioritize certain games, and anything else, if I don't get it right away, I just wait until, like, when it's on sale or when I'm done with certain games and I'm ready for the game that I didn't get. But that's just about it. The other question that Icepick asked is, are there any series that you feel like you missed out on because it seems like it's too late to get into them? And if so, are you more concerned about the sheer number of entries, or did you just miss out on the chance to pick up a specific game in the series? Actually, this is a question I can answer. I have multiple. For one, it was Mega Man Battle Network. Not anymore, because I've already, as of right now, I have beaten 3 of the 6 games in the series, or at least the main ones. with the most recent one being Mega Man Battle Network 3 Blue version. And so Mega Man Battle Network would have been one, but not so much anymore. Another one I would probably say is Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy because the first one I actually got into was 9. But I played some other ones since. I have beaten 9, 7, and 6. With 6 being my favorite one. And my least favorite of the 3 is 7. Don't get me wrong. 7 is really good. I just happen to like both 6 and 9 a lot more.
It's funny, Shell, because those are my answers as well.
All right. And those are good game. And those are good game examples for that. What about you, Homecoming?
Yeah, for me, it's basically Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper. I got to fix a couple of those with Spyro the Dragon and Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, Crash Team Racing, Nitro Fuel, and Crash 4. Or even then, like, Crash and Spyro had Game Boy games.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, like, I always wanted to play the originals. Halo. Well, oh, wait. So never owning Halo. I played Halo at other people's houses, but, like, a big thing for me is just because I was a Nintendo fan for so long, I missed, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, Gravity Rush, Loco Roco, Parappa the Rappa. Some of these are definitely games that I want to get into, and like for Sly Cooper, because I don't want to do the cloud stuff, Sly Cooper requires me to buy a PS2 or a PS3, and then either a collection or multiple games. In that case, to reference something that I've seen happen, sometimes Sly does not keep his head on.
So you want my advice when it comes to Sly Cooper games? Just get the original trilogy on PS2. It's much cheaper than just getting the collection, than getting the HD collection.
Okay. I will keep that in mind. What about you, Shad?
Well, for the ones that missed out on the chance to get specific games, like, generally, I don't view games that way. There's almost always a way for me to access a game if I want to, aside from some fringe cases like Sega Saturn where the emulation is really bad, and in that case, I do wish that Panzer Dragoon, what is it, the RPG one? I wish I did that, but I didn't have a Saturn.
Yeah.
But for the sheer number of entries, that sometimes is more of a factor for me, that I feel like I missed something. And the first one that springs to my mind is the Trails games, the RPGs, the Trails.
Yeah.
Because they are all really long, and there's a lot of them, and some of them you have to play them in order. And unlike something like Final Fantasy, where you can just kind of pick and choose, and they don't connect that much.
Yeah.
That's a game series that does, and that can be intimidating when it's a long series where you have to play them sequentially, and you haven't got into it for a long time.
Oh, yeah. All right. Next topic. Next question comes from Dragon. I feel like most kids grew up either mainly with Sega or Nintendo systems. Do you regret anything at all about how you were introduced to video games? No.
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 Not really. My introduction to video games was very deliberate. My parents told me later, either when I was a teen or a young adult, that they got me my Super Nintendo when I was 5 because they were hoping I would get hooked on it, because it would be better than if I got hooked on like drugs or something.
Yeah.
So I was very calculated to get into games, and they picked Nintendo, and that was a good pick.
Yeah. What about
in my case? It was on a whim, because my dad, at the time, he worked at a pawn shop, and I think I was like 2 or 3, and he ended up renting. He brought home a Nintendo 64 from his job, and he rented 2 games: Dr. Mario 64 for himself and Super Mario 64 for me.
Yeah. What about you, Homecoming?
No. I love being a Nintendo fan. For everyone who's a Sony fan or who grew up with Xbox, I think like different flavors of ice cream, that makes you the gamer you are, and the more different stories, the better. Growing up as a Nintendo kid wasn't always easy.
Yep.
I never lived through the Wii U era. I know I did, and that was my only system too.
I mean, we even had some gems, but I also was glad that I had PS4 to fall back on.
Yeah. In my case, it was mostly like the 3DS that I had to fall back on.
That too.
I'm one of those weirdos that forced myself to like Mario Tennis Ultra Smash because it was a Mario game.
Honestly,
that's what we.
That was worse than Battle League.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I just imagine Rox sitting there like, "This is a good game." One tear goes down his cheek. This is a good game.
Yep.
It's like playing tennis. I can play as the Sprixie.
But yeah, no, like I don't regret at all for the games that I've actually played all my life, because I started with an NES, which influenced my taste in gaming. And my first game was Mario. My second game was Duck Hunt, and also all the experiences, because at the time arcade games were still huge. Around the time that I started playing video games, and my first arcade game, I was 3 years old, didn't know how to play it. The first arcade Ninja Turtles game that came out in '89, but this was 1990. I went to like a local deli. My dad wanted to go to the store just to get something for us, and then I played. He gave me $1. I died in the first level where there was like all the fire, and then after that, my dad was like, "That's it. We gotta go home." And so no, I don't regret my experiences. Though the only thing is, I kind of wish that I had certain consoles earlier than when I did. Like I kind of wish I had a Super Nintendo earlier than when I actually got it, and I kind of wish that I would have expanded my horizons a little bit more. But at the same time, when you're a little kid, you don't know what you were going to get into at first. You were either like just, unless you were reading magazines, you would otherwise get recommendations from family members or friends from school, but you're never really going to know for sure.
I mean, I'm nostalgic for the game rental days where that was just a regular thing to just rent a game at Blockbuster or your local game rental store.
Yeah.
And not know what you're getting, just pay $5-10 and just try something out.
And I even did an episode on game rentals months ago, and game renting is a very good experience too. But go ahead.
I was going to say that was how magical childhood weekends were made. It was just by renting video games.
Yeah, unless you ended up renting a bad game and then you just stuck with it for like the amount of days that you have it for.
Yeah,
5 days.
And you're stuck with your Garfield VHS that you also conveniently picked up.
I don't know what you're talking about. I picked up Sonic X on DVD.
Or in my case, having a Teddy Ruxpin doll, which I had when I was a little kid. And yeah, like that's the thing, because I'm gonna highlight a comment from Mr. Ben about like all this stuff about how like it basically, like video games basically gets you out of like all the stuff that could be happening in your life, like dealing drugs or doing anything illegal, being in the bad crowds, because he was basically like seconding everything that Shad was saying earlier. That's the thing. You don't want, like, this is better than whatever type of path you could have taken. But for me, I'm glad to be taking this path, playing video games and just meeting people online, conventions and other stuff.
I mean, my parents knew what they were doing. My dad struggled with drug addictions for a lot of his life, so they were like, "We don't want to take that chance." And I'm thankful for that because I'm the type of person that does get addicted to stuff, and so I'm glad it's something more harmless like games.
Yeah. So the next one that Dragon asked was, is there a game you regret loaning to someone because they never gave it back to you for one reason or another? Well, on the contrary, no. But because I loaned Metroid Other M to a friend, but the same friend, he loaned Dead Rising to me for Xbox, and same friend, I forgot what else I loaned him, but he also lent me Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, and I still have those games, and I haven't talked to that friend in years.
So you're the friend, and that.
Yeah. So
that friend lost their stuff.
So basically, it was the reverse. Like I lost a few. He has some of my stuff, and I have his stuff.
That friend that Shell just mentioned gets to enjoy the joys of parenthood because the baby.
Yes.
But that actually happened to me. I swapped a game with a friend. That friend took my original copy of Superstar Saga. Never saw him again. I got Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team.
All right. Rox. Hold up before you go. Before you go ahead on it. What were you gonna say as well? Homecoming.
Oh no, that's all I was gonna say is that it's a fine game, but it's no Superstar Saga, so I still feel like downgraded. But yeah, that's it.
Okay. Rox.
So I was never allowed to just outright let friends borrow games. But what I did was one day when I was in middle school, I think I was in the 7th grade at the time, I had my DS Lite, and one of my friends kept bugging me to let them borrow it for the day while we were at school, and he would give it back to me on the bus that exact same day. So I said, fine, whatever. I gave it to him, and throughout the day, I was starting to get paranoid, so I kept asking for it back, and he kept making up excuses as to why he wouldn't give it back. At the end of the day, he revealed that he was playing it in class, and it ended up getting it taken up by the teacher. So before the bus left, I tried to run back to the classroom that he was playing it in to get it back from the teacher. The teacher gave it to the principal, and I never saw it again.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you answer, Shad?
No, I didn't. I don't really have a good answer there. I did occasionally let friends borrow stuff, but never really ran into that situation. The closest is, I know at some point when I was a kid that me and a friend each borrowed something from each other, and I borrowed... They borrowed my Super Mario World walkthrough, and I didn't get that back, but I ended up with whatever they let me borrow, and I don't even know which thing it is like that I got in return, but it probably was better than a walkthrough.
Yeah.
And other than that, anything I currently am lending to either one of my best friends or most likely my sister, which I'm like, I'll get that back when I get that back. Like, I don't care.
Yeah. Let's see. So the next one comes from Destiny. Was there any game that you always wanted to try but couldn't and would end up regretting not trying it? Let's see.
Nothing. I don't feel I already said this podcast. So
yeah, I pretty much said what I needed to say on that because it was similar to what Icepick said.
Yeah, same.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
And the last one is from. Actually, no. There's actually two.
There's two more. Yeah.
Because there is one last one. I'm gonna go to Mr. Ben's question because the question that Nova asked, which is basically similar to that of what Destiny asked, which Icepick asked as well. It's a similar question. So, like, one video game that you always wanted to play that you never got to play for whatever reason that may be. Again, we answered it already.
Yeah.
More or less. But Ben has one question. Was there ever a game that you purchased and played, regret buying it, and promptly returned it to the store for a full refund the same day that you bought it? Superman 64 is basically one of the big ones. I don't know if it was the same day or the day after, but it was during the same week.
Marvel Midnight Suns. Wasn't the same day, but it was that same week. It's not that it was a bad game, it's just something about it just wasn't jiving with me.
I'd say a lot of games that ended up on Game Pass, like buying the Skywalker Saga for $60 and it ended up on Game Pass, or buying Gotham Knights for $30 and then it ended up on Game Pass. Like, just really that was one that I wish I just was a little bit more patient for.
Yeah. Shad?
Nope. I've never returned a game. I don't think I've ever returned a game at all, let alone same day.
There is one other example, but this is a digital example for Steam. Grand Theft Auto 3 for Steam. I attempted to play it, and then after like about the first 15 minutes of the game started crashing, and then the game would not work whatsoever. So I ended up just getting a refund. And that version of the game has since been delisted because Rockstar ended up porting the Grand Theft Auto trilogy that contained 3 Vice City and San Andreas all together. The same one that's been criticized for how the performance is on multiple platforms, and this does include Steam. So yeah, that's my answer. But I've seen some other people answer like different types of games in general. But that's basically mine. All right, so that's gonna do it for biggest gaming regrets. Really good topic, really good discussion. Before we go, Homecoming, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Late Night Sprites. You can also where I will be uploading reviews and stuff very soon. There's a lot of shorts of retro hunting you can watch there. You can also find me at latenightsprites.blogspot.com, as well as Late Night Sprites as a podcast that I run myself. And the last thing I'll say is that you can find me with Rox on Galactic Rush 64, where we have a lot of stuff in the works, and it's going to be great.
Yep. And where can we find you, Rox?
You can find me on YouTube over at Rox's Gamepad, where I do Let's Plays, and I am currently working on a script for a new series called Arachnid Alert, where I basically go over video games to let people know whether or not they have spiders in them. It's basically a guide for arachnophobic gamers. You can also find me on Twitter, as well as Blue Sky under RoxTheCat for both. You can find me occasionally streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/RoxTheCat. And like Homecoming said, you can also find me over on Galactic Rush, where we do our own thing.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check you guys out on Galactic Rush soon. Because I know you got that Simpsons Hit and Run Let's Play. And I've been wanting to watch. Shad, where can we find you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/ShadJV. You can also find me on YouTube as ShadJV. My YouTube are just the VODs from Twitch chopped into smaller bits.
Yeah. All right. That's fair. All right. And of course, you could find me on multiple platforms: Twitch, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, YouTube, Discord, like Instagram, ShellshockPrime. And I do a lot of streams, usually Monday through Thursdays with the occasional Sunday stream. We do have another episode sharing with Shellshock happening next week, which is going to be the Nintendo Entertainment System. So hope you guys can tune in for that one. So again, Homecoming, Rox, Shad, thank you so much for joining in. Great episode.
Thank you. I do not regret this podcast.
Yep.
Same.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's going to do it. Take care, everybody.